Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today I'm in Estonia. We're over here for the conference this weekend. Today joining me, some of you guys may have seen him before when we were recording last year, when we come over for the last conference that you had. So today we're going to do an in-depth, and joining me is Mihkel Moosel. How are we doing?
Doing good, how are you? And welcome to Estonia, glad to have you here.
Thank you, so that's a good start. So again, return of in-depth, what we do is we chart the history of the entrepreneur, what makes them tick, the good, the bad, the ugly, the rise and everything else. So welcome to your first in-depth on our show. And firstly, let's start with your childhood, right? So a lot of formulation of who the people are today come from their childhood. I always say that entrepreneurs have something to prove, or to prove someone, whether that's themselves or others, to make you want to kind of go into this realm. So starting with your childhood, what was it like, early years as a child? Who did you look up for inspiration? Your mum, your dad, etc.
I think that was mainly my dad. And for me it was always the thing that I tried to do many different things in sports, hobbies, everything, and tried to be really good at it and get like the top results just to kind of impress my dad.
Yeah, indeed. And so what was school like for you? Because a lot of entrepreneurs I speak to either great academically or couldn't stand it, and they were bored, senseless, and so they kind of worked their way through school and excelled after. What kind of student were you?
Well, in high school I was a very good student. I had like straight A's essentially, and did sports and did a band and everything else, so no problems there. But when I went to university, then that got a bit boring. You started thinking like, is this all that life has to offer? And that's when I started trying to find like interesting challenges and extracurricular stuff to do besides school as well.
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about that period, between 5 and 15. What did you want to be when you grew up, and sports, and let's talk a bit about activities like that.
Who I wanted to be? Oh shoot. I had like many things. I wanted to be a veterinarian, wanted to become a car mechanic, all of these types of things, but nothing really related to entrepreneurship, I think. I think one thing that's just kind of like ties everything maybe together is I've been always been really curious about how things work. It's like, I studied or read a lot of books on my own because I just wanted to understand why or how things work. Yeah.
So you had more of an engineer's brain. You wanted to break things out and understand how they work and put things back together.
I would say so. So I wouldn't say I'm like an engineer with an engineer mind, but I am very curious about how and why different things work, and I have this inner feeling that I need to understand why it works this way, and I need to work for the answer until I get to it. And
So you leave school, high school, whatever, you went on to university. What led you to university? What was the kind of things that you studied?
So I studied economics, and the reason for that was because already in high school I started organizing a couple of different events and stuff like this, and I felt I wanted to build something, so I felt I wanted to learn how to do business. So I went to study economics. However, unfortunately, I found out that economics was very little about entrepreneurship and a lot about mathematics, theoretical stuff, statistics, all that stuff, which was very good to understand.
It's handy, but there's nothing like real life experience.
Well, it helps you create a good picture of how the economy works and how the world works, but it doesn't really give you any tools to do the things that you need, that you want to do. At least that's how I felt.
Yeah. So what was your first job out of school, university, etc.?
So my first, I don't know if I can call it like a real job, but I started selling books door to door in America. So it was like a program where there were recruiters recruiting for a summer program to work in the United States, and somebody told me that it's door to door sales. Somebody told me it's really hard there's many people who don't finish it, but it's very developing. And I was like, okay, sign me up. I want to do it because I want to, challenge myself and prove I can do this thing.
Yeah.
So that's, I went to sell books in America, and I ended up
Whereabouts in America? Where were you?
So I sold 7 summers in altogether. So during university and a little bit after that. So I built a career inside a company. So I recruited teams and became a sales manager in there. And every summer I sold like in various parts, Florida, Iowa, Minnesota, New Mexico, Tennessee,
I mean, if you're down south or something, how does your accent work? You knock on someone's door, it's like alien to them, right? In terms of like if you go in Midwest and stuff like that, or even New York, just a blonde gentleman, international blonde gentleman, turns up on the door trying to sell stuff. That must have been a pretty hard gig in itself.
Actually the first impression was the opposite because like my opening line was like, hey, how are you? You must be like the mom or dad of the house. I'm Mihkel. I'm actually from Europe. That's why I talk funny. Yeah. And everybody was like, oh yeah, you're from Europe. Where from? And then the conversation got really naturally going from there.
Yeah, basically that was the point of differentiation because it's very hard, telephone sales, door sales. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't tolerate any of that. If someone phones, I don't even pick up the phone anymore if I don't know the number. And if someone knocks on the door, I'll politely say no, and then it's over. I don't like that. For me, that's a boundary. You see, when people just invade your space, knocking your door, trying to sell you stuff. So
I think there's a huge difference in the area you sell in as well. Like if you sell in the Midwest, like in the countryside where nobody actually goes, then it's quite easy and relaxed. But if you sell like in high income suburbs, the doors are pretty well oiled. They move fast.
Yeah. So that's really good for developing. Obviously, at the end of the day, a lot of people I find is, especially myself, it's more about marketing than the actual selling. I'm not a hard seller. Most of my stuff comes inbound, and I'm more comfortable with doing that. But being put on the coalface like that, that's a very important skill for any entrepreneur to learn, especially at the startup stage. So you did this for 7 summers. What else did you do in that period before you went into setting up your own businesses?
Well, like I said, this actually turned out to be like a career for me. So in the summers, I sold books in USA, and between the summers, I put together teams and teach them how to do the same thing what I did. So I recruited a team, and at the highest point, I think I had 28 people, 28 students then working like under me. So it was like you do it yourself and you teach others how to do it and kind of try to grow your organization inside that company.
Yeah, and so where do we go from here?
So at one point I got tired of it. You know what those golden handcuffs are? So it was actually quite good because when I started, I sucked. I was quite bad, but I was determined that, okay, I want to learn how to get better at this. So at one point I got quite good in door-to-door sales at least, and in recruiting a team. And but then the pay was good, the travel, everything was good, but I felt like, I want to do something on my own. I want to actually create something on my own because I felt like everything was constrained. There were so many rules. You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, no summers off. So I wanted to do something on my own. But the problem I had was I had no idea what to do. I think that's what most entrepreneurs face. Like, I want to do something, but like what, right? So I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to or reading blogs about different business models, and Amazon came up like many different times. So I thought, okay, like until I get my big idea, how I want to change the world or what my life work is going to be, until I get that idea, I'm going to do Amazon. I'm going to develop my skills as an entrepreneur, learn marketing, learn product development, finances, everything that I need. And then when I'm, ready, then I can make the big leap into something, to build something different. So that was the plan.
So let's start putting the timeline in place, because you've kind of gone straight to Amazon after the sales, where some people may have had a series of different jobs in different industries, etc.
Yeah.
So when did you start selling on Amazon?
2016.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I was
around the gold rush. 2015 was the golden year. So 2016. Yeah.
yeah 2016 is when I started. Yeah.
All right. So first brand, obviously, all in Estonia. What marketplace did you start with?
So I started 2 brands in 2 marketplaces. One I started right away in USA, and the other one I started at the same time in UK because I wanted to see how the markets are different and how the dynamics are different.
So you sold to both of those brands now, have you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So we can talk about the brands without giving the name of the brands, like the categories and stuff.
Yeah,
You know the
yeah,
contract.
yeah.
Okay. So what category were you in, and what were some of the products? Give us a breakdown of each brand, what they were doing in the early days.
So the main brand. So I would really say there was one brand because one was like a big brand, the other one was just a few products. So the main brand was in like water and air quality testing. So testing for like heavy metals in your water, bacteria, radon. Like whenever you build a new house in USA, you need to test it for radon, testing for mold, pool testing, all that kind of stuff. So that was like one brand. And before we sold it, I think we had like 40 plus products, SKUs there. And
how did you do for search volume? Because obviously that's more peripheral, kind of less sexy, shiny object stuff, right? So they're more, they're more, what's the word I'm looking for? They'll fit more for the scientific area. They're not exciting to sell and stuff. But is it because you had a lot of SKUs with lower search volume, you were able to make good money with it, or?
It kind of it came out like this, that initially we had a couple of products that did really, really well, and we just took the goal that the best way, like there's 3 ways how you can grow a brand. You can either increase the sales of the current products, go to new markets, or add new products. And we figured that in our stage, the most important thing is to put on more new products. So we took a goal to launch at least 1 new product per quarter to go out like this. Eventually we did like 6 products per quarter, but this kind of determined like that we can do like maybe 1 bigger product with product developments that has big search volume, big potential, and you have to do like some add-on products and some maybe variations of the old products that you have in order to meet that quota.
Yeah. And so what year are we at now when you hit your first million?
The first million, that's a good question. I don't remember.
And you can combine both brands. We haven't spoken about the other brand.
I think it was like 2019, I think 3 years or something like that, yeah.
And what did the other brand sell?
This was really simple stuff. It was like RFID wallets.
Okay, yeah. Tough market?
It's actually, it's to this date the easiest products I have ever sold.
Wow. Okay.
Because when I started, like I had like kind of a unique design and the product started flying quite well. So I added some more variations, and I'm not kidding about this. It took me about an hour to an hour and a half a year to optimize the listings, and that's all the work I did. There were no customer complaints, nothing. It just gathered reviews.
Machines.
Yes, it just gathered reviews, order more stock, and every once in a while you look, okay, maybe let's tweak the PPC or SEO a little bit. Nothing like that. The other brand, the scientific brand, you had to put a lot of work in.
Cool. So we got that to 2019. Obviously, we had the gold rush in terms of the aggregators coming in that space. Obviously, around that time, late 2019. Purchasing started to pick up slightly, right? So Frasio was leading the charge there. You don't need to name the aggregator, but when was it time to sell for you? When did you start putting that together as a package?
So for us, it wasn't planned really. So maybe we were like the naive ones that were picked out. I remember like at the end of 2020, we started getting like lots of emails and offers of people saying, hey, your brand looks interesting. We will be interesting to buy it for good money. And initially I ignored all of those emails. And then at one point I was like curious. So how much do you think my brand is worth?
Yeah.
So I contacted them, they gave me like a number, and we said it's not enough. Like we think it's valued much higher. And they said, so what would be a number that you would sell it for? So we thought, okay, so let's highball it and go like high, and gave them a number. They went to their investors, came back, said no, we cannot buy this brand. It's not, you know, in the criteria that we can work with. The multipliers are not in that criteria. But we know like one very well financed aggregator who might be interested. So they kind of brought us together, and that's in 2021 we went into the deal with that.
And do you think that, if you're honest with you now, putting distance apart and where multiples are now today, do you think you got a very good deal because of the bubble at the time, in terms of your...
What are the multiples right now?
They're down in the 2, 2.5, 3s, not much above, but there was, at the peak, there was stuff going for 7s and 8s at some point. I mean, that's more at the extreme end, but 5s and 6s wasn't a difficult, not necessarily difficult, but not an unrealistic multiple at its peak.
Yeah, I think we got a quite, like at that moment, I think we got like the highest multiple that we could have gotten. The bubble got much bigger after that for the next 9 months or so. Before it crashed. So if you sold on that last moment, I think you got a much better multiple, but it is definitely better than those lower multiples that you mentioned.
Yeah, so let's go through the process. You weren't planning to sell, you've got the unsexy end of the market, you've got a wide range of SKUs. First time going, did you sell both of the brands at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay, so they bought them as a package.
Yeah.
So how does that break out in terms of, without going into any conflict on the contract? How did that work out? You got two brands. How was the valuation? Were they done together jointly, or did they were treated independently but bought at the same time?
No, they were like valued kind of together. Their interest was really in the bigger brand because the smaller one was so small. But since they were connected under the same account, they were like, okay, no, so let's buy that as well. It's not that much extra to that.
So how long did it take to put that deal together?
From starting talking to finalizing, I think it was like 3.5 months.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so due diligence, did you have others at the table as well, or do you just go with them because they made the offer?
We didn't. So we had this one consultant or person who we talked to, and he said like we showed them like kind of like what our multiple offer was, and he was working in the market as well, and he thought he was like a neutral opinion, and he said like this is a really good multiple to compare to what he's seeing everywhere else right now, so that's probably like one of the best ones I've seen. So we were like, okay, so let's go with it.
Yeah, so let's talk some of the leading up to the deal. Did you have any, the moments where the deal's on, it's off, you're at a timeline, the build up, the stress? Let's talk through the last 72 hours of doing the deal. How was you feeling then, and what was some of the emotions going through at that time?
I think I didn't have any regrets at that moment. I did make like a calculation. Our brand was growing really fast at the time, like 10% a month, 20% a month in growth, like month-to-month growth. So it was growing really fast. So that's maybe why we got an even higher multiple a little bit. But we were thinking I calculate if we would sell it like a year later, we would probably make 1.5 million more on the deal. But we figured that we had like a new idea on the table already, something much bigger we wanted to do. So we wanted to lower the risk, take some chips off the table. So we were like, okay, let's just sell it and use some of the money to start the new brand really quickly and get that going, because we were confident we can do that again. Yeah,
so deal gets signed. Online banking, you have a little look, you see that number, how did you feel?
Pretty good. Yeah.
Did you do anything to celebrate it at all?
I bought an expensive rum with my business partner. We sat down, we talked about it, we celebrated, and but nothing too much really. Just some fun weekend with girlfriend, and then after that, just like have spent some of that money for like traveling a lot, like 7 countries a year or so. So it wasn't like any big celebrations or anything like this, because I didn't want to go out like, hey, look, I sold this company, everybody look at me. I was more like, let's do what I always wanted to do. Let's go travel to this place. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because like nearly everyone I've spoken to when we've done it, even like other in-depths, we just done one with Ben Leonard the other day, and when we do our life after exits, pretty much no one's life changes. Bottle of wine, delayed gratification, you know, some of the interesting things come up is like, what we're going to do now without touching the principal.
Yeah.
So you sold your business, where's the cash coming in for day to day? Do you see what I mean? Because you don't want to touch that money, you want to reinvest. So quite often it's like, nice, bit of money in the bank, sort out the taxes, what do we do next? You know, bottle of wine, maybe go on holiday, but nothing really changes because obviously a lot of people think, you know, they reach the top of the summit. Because you think about it, an Amazon seller doing 7 figures is the 1%.
Yeah.
Of that 1%, yeah, let's say there's new data suggests there's 100,000 7 figures, and the old data 2 years ago was about 60,000. So we've seen that increase. But then you've got the people that have exited. So that's the unicorn stuff, because you've already hit the 1%. Then you do the unicorn stuff, and then it's like, what's next? Do you know what I mean? You reach the top of the summit.
Yeah.
So you sold. What was next after that? And I ask you these questions because I see a pattern, and normally if you haven't started a brand side by side with the exit, it takes sellers a lot longer to come back for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
One, you've got money in the bank, so you haven't got the pressure.
Yeah.
Two, you really want to go and build the greatest product ever. Now you've got the availability of budget. Or three, you're in two minds whether to come back, or you can't find what you want, or you spend a long time in the sample stage. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you get out the game and then you've been out for so long is that you invest in properties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So obviously you're back. How many brands you got now?
One.
Right, so you come back with one brand. So you've done all the travelling and everything. Did you know what you wanted to do post-exit? Money's in the bank, done a bit of travelling. Same business partner?
Yeah.
So you're back in the game together. So where did all that come about for the third brand after the two you sold?
So actually we started 2 new brands, but we had to stop one because it just wasn't profitable. It got sales, but it wasn't profitable, so we decided to kill it.
Yeah.
And we did exactly the mistake number 2. It's like funny thing is like there's a saying like if something works, don't change it, right? So we started going like really big into product development. We did like design patent on the product and really made the best product on the market. And the second thing we did different is we went like into very, very competitive markets, like the front pages were doing like 400,000 or 500,000 a month per product. And we got like our asses whooped there, like, and spent a lot of money on that. So that was a good lesson. And the second one, it's been taking long as well. It's now going. It's selling quite well. It's profitable. But you're right. Competition has gotten much harder. I think you want to do things much more like perfectly than you did before. And it's still the thing. You want to do it a bit different than you did before because it's boring to do it exactly the same way how you did before, even though the way you did it before it worked really well.
It's consistent. You go, no, I need to change this.
Yeah, you don't need to change it, but it's like, hey, I want like some variety in my life or business. So you start doing different things, and then you make your life more complicated in the end. Yeah. So that's the paradox.
So what did you feel when, did you have the assumption, because everyone does, right? The amount of times you've seen super successful sellers know exactly what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Killed it, then does a new brand and just dissipates, just doesn't work, even though they've got all the skills, because it was called the luck of the Amazon seller. Yeah. You have to have a little bit of a gravy train to jump on alongside all the wonderful skills that you've acquired. And you'll try everything, and sometimes it just simply doesn't work. Yeah. Wrong market timing, time, that you've moved in from when you started. So did you have any slight overconfidence? Well, I've done this and I started in 2016 and I've built these brands. It's like, yeah, cool, we'll come back, we're going to do this, and it didn't happen. It's slower and longer. Talk us through.
Yeah, well, I think the first brand that we started is a very good lesson of this, right? I think we were very overconfident, especially me, because besides our own brands, we were also doing like an Amazon marketing agent at the time. We're not doing it anymore, but we had taken 2 clients from 0 to a couple of million a year in just a few years in that agency, and we did everything from 0 ourselves, just to commission from the revenue. We did like 5-6-figure businesses from 0. So
I remember because you come to me for about some PPC, I think.
I think I asked, and we were just trying to pivot the agency at the time. So we had launched like 100+ 20, 30 products or something like that successfully. And by successful I mean they're profitable and they're selling at a decent level. So we were very confident. But then it's true. It's like you start taking maybe a little bit too big risk. You think, okay, I can figure this out even in this kind of competition. I need this challenge and whatever. And for us, this new brand, it tanked, and we took a 6-figure loss on it.
Yeah.
In total, yeah.
Yeah, that was suck it up, buttercup. That was a bit of a tough one.
That was like good refresher.
Yeah. Was it one of those moments? Do I get out this game? Is it for me still? Did you have any of those kind of self-doubts?
At this moment, no, I didn't have it, because I was like, it was pretty clear like where the mistakes were made and why they were. So no, but I did feel that people in our team, including myself, were getting a bit more tired because you had put so much effort into it, and everybody had put so much effort into it, but there was no result, there was no experience of win, of victory, and you can see people's eyes lose their shine a little bit, and you're like, okay, that's a bad sign. Yeah.
I mean, motivation gets you so far, but it's the consistency and discipline over time, but that can be the grind. I call it the dip. Yeah. So the dip is where you're doing everything right, but you're getting nothing coming back. Yeah. Yeah, and you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because you go up and down. Life is just a cycle. Yeah. You just got to work out where the peaks and the valleys are. You ride the peaks, and then you sit in the valley knowing the peak's coming at some point, but you don't have a date for that. Yeah. And I see what you mean. Like when you're leading the business and you've got a team that's maybe not entrepreneurs, it's very disheartening for them because they keep whacking their head against the wall. Yeah. So when they get misty-eyed, you're the one, even though you've just lost 6 figures in the game, you're losing your shirt. It's how do we motivate these people? Yeah. So it's cool, carry on. And when do you pull the plug and stop yourself?
So that was a question, like how do I motivate them?
Yeah, how did you manage to moderate that, considering the loss of the brand, the money, the misty eye, how did you motivate the team and turn that? Did you just sit down with them and say, guys, we give it a good crack, didn't work, but we got this one here, or?
No, well, I like, here's something different as well. So that at the same time, our agency had some problems too with some clients. Yeah. And that brand had some problems, and to save those businesses, I overworked myself so much that I worked myself into depression. Wow. So I was like, that was very hard to be in the game even. So I tried to take a longer vacation, and that really helped. But so that's how it affected me. But I knew I can come back from this. But it's really, I think the fact that I wasn't really there in many moments affected the team, and we lost many good team members in that period, that's for sure. The ones who stayed with us, I think they understood the situation, and we consolidated and remade our efforts towards the new brand to work on that. Because at the end of the day, you have very good people together, very sharp people together, everybody understands it, but you need this motivation boost, or
you need to be the glue that holds it together, and they follow your leadership by example. Yeah. So if you're struggling, say, with depression and stuff, the energy gets put out. You're in this workspace, right? Your team works together. It's even more under the microscope because they see you on a day-to-day. Yeah. It's different when it's on Zoom and you've got distributed teams and stuff. So what are some of your, what's been your darkest hours before dawn to then come back? You said you went into depression. If there's boundaries, but if you don't mind talking about it, because I think this is a key problem that sellers will face and do face, is sitting in front of that computer 60 hours a week, not getting any sunlight, fresh air, not getting their steps in, not going outside, the stress that is a compound effect over a period of time. So walk me through that. You recognise you were depressed. What did you do to get around that? How did you get back out of that?
So how I got out of the depression?
Yeah.
Well, number one thing was I realized I had to change something. Although I had been in this depressive state for a month or two already by that moment. So I just bought one-way tickets to Madeira and went there for 5 weeks. And it's funny, I did keep working from there, but 1/3 of the load time that I usually do. And first 2 weeks I slept every day like 14 hours, 12 hours or something like that. I was just completely alone, shut out from the world, no distractions, and that really helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Like the sun was out every day, the sea was there, sleeping a lot, so that really kind of brought me back.
That kind of signifies as well, like I'm very strong-minded. Like you, like me and you, we go to the gym or whatever it is. It's like I'm kind of, and it's the wrong thing to do. I'm like, fuck your feelings, meaning me, do it anyway. But you can push too hard. And there's a great book that's called The Body Keeps Score.
Yeah.
So what we don't allow in upstairs pushes down to the body. So your body feels like a heavy weight. You're tired all the time. You're lethargic and you've got to push through. That probably explains some of the 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
Once you got to that isolation point where no one relies on you, the pressure's off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of comes out in that way, and then that rest is very much needed. So you done 5 weeks there. How long did it take you to kind of get back in the zone again, back to the old self?
So I did 5 weeks there. Then I was in Estonia. Then was Prosper in Vegas.
I see.
So I think I wasn't in like this really strong proper work schedule for 2 or 3 months actually after, because every month there was like a business trip or some kind of like purpose trip. They kind of kept a variety there, and it was like almost like an excuse to not push your boundaries. Because I agree with this being tough-minded and everything, but I realized at one moment that like it's okay to take it easy as well. Like you can push yourself through it, but in the end, like what's the is it worth the health, right? So I took it a little bit easier. I traveled quite a bit, and after 2 or 3 weeks, that's when that's when I started like working really intensely again. Yeah.
So you come out of that. Did you stop training and start? Did everything stop? Because you train a lot as well, right? So that's good for your body and your mind. Did you get to the stage in that depression that all stopped and nearly everything stopped, or?
No, I didn't train at that time at all, and this was actually, I think everything was in relation. I had a very tough pressure from the business side. I had very tough times in my personal life in 2022 autumn, and at the same time, the only place where I found like peace was in the gym, working out, like because then I didn't think about anything, so I restored there. But then I got like a severe shoulder injury, and I couldn't exercise anymore. And I remember when that shoulder injury came, like a tear came to my eye in the gym. I was like, no, like the only thing where I had joy, it's gone now. And that's actually when the downfall started going into depression from that moment.
Because everything else has gone wrong, and the only sense of peace that you got was to go to the gym, right? That's the only thing that gave you joy at the time, and then that was taken away. That's what. Go on.
So essentially I couldn't work out for like a year and a half or so, properly at least. And
you've done a rehab, got your shoulder back. So this is 2022. Where are we now with the business? We got rid of the albatross, the 6-figure loss, right? We wiped our mouth. We moved on. How did that get launched back into the current brand that you're doing now and the growth? How's that been going?
So when we stopped the brand that ended up in the loss, I have a very, very good business partner. Like very, very grateful to have met him and worked together with him, because he was the person who carried a lot of the load on his shoulders during that period. So him and another very talented team member, they started this new brand. They and I had this thought, or at least I believe in this, that when you have very, very talented, competent people, then you should give them like what they need and then just take your hands off and let them do it. So our agreement was a lot that I will provide like financials, help work, the strategy, but everything else they do on their own, and they did, and it started really hard because we launched the new brand, everything by the book, how we had done. And we did like significant product developments. And by the end of the second week, we were doing like 3.5K a day in sales, and it was profitable. So that was good, very good. And then you get the defect, and like you're like no, and like you realize that there was a tiny part inside the product. The samples, they were okay, but for the real products, the manufacturers had changed those screws inside the product, and the whole batch was defective. So you see like a brand going up. I'm like looking, hey, we're gonna do 100K in our first month, and then you see those 1 stars coming in one by one, and you're like, shoot, that's torture. So then we cut it. We redid the products, and then there was another problem. We relaunched again. Same problem happened. Launched well, and the first review was 1 star. Went down again.
No, pull it back. No icing.
That was like, and you're like, how many times can you do this wrong? Like in product development, how many times can the Chinese get this wrong? But we had very long conversations with the manufacturer, and then finally we got it right, and now we relaunched it again this spring, and I think the best days have been like 6.5K a day or so. Yeah.
Excellent. So what we're moving forward. So what's the future look for you? What's your roadmap now? Where do you want to see yourself and your business in the next couple of years?
It's a very good question. On the Amazon side, I do feel it would be great to get that business going. It would be awesome to build like an 8-figure business there. I still want that, but if for whatever reason it doesn't happen, either again defects come in or like whatever X factor comes in, then that's okay. So I would like to build something bigger in there. But if that doesn't happen, then take some break and get to any new opportunity and build something new in a different area.
Yeah. And what do you for you yourself, what keeps you in the flow? I know you train and stuff. Is there anything specific that you do to take your mind off work so that you're present elsewhere in your life?
Exercise, walking, time with friends, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
And where do you get your best ideas from? Where do they come to you? On the walks, shower, or you sit there and purposely take time out to think, stare at the wall, and things come?
I think it's a combination of walking and asking yourself questions.
Yeah.
Like, how do I solve this thing, or why am I feeling this way, and how can I change that? That's kind of how you get to really good ideas. But I think the ground, or like the seeds for those ideas to come up, come from going to conferences, talking to people like you, other people, listening to podcasts. That's how you get ideas. That's how you get creativity. Because what is creativity is you have just heard and seen many things in different places, and you learn to put them together and apply them in your area, right? So that's how I look at it, at least.
Yeah. What has been your darkest hour just before dawn in your life, where you've had to make that big comeback, climb that hole? What's been the darkest hour?
I think the darkest hour was exactly in that depression time, because I was at the time I just had to work to keep the agency afloat, work on the Amazon brand, and we were doing like an online training as well. So I was working like from 9 to 5, then from 7 to 12 in the evening I was recording videos in the studio, then slept for a few hours, then again to the office. And one day I remember, it was like a November day, I drove out of the garage and the sun was shining, everything was bright, and I just felt in my head, it would be just so much easier today, like if a car hit me. Wow. And like that because the work pressure and the pressure from personal life and everything, it was just so big that I was like, that's the first time ever in my life when I had this kind of thought. I was like this is really bad now. This is really bad now.
So literally thoughts of self-deletion.
Yeah. So I think that's the darkest hour where I ever been at, because whichever way I looked at it, I was like, there's no way we're gonna come out of any of this, because this is messed up, this is messed up, this is messed up, this is messed up, right? But life teaches you that when you take some time apart, shrink, make life simple a little bit, then things sort out and you can come out of it.
Well, I'm glad you made the right decision.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. How would you like to be remembered?
I think I would like to be remembered, maybe not as much, like when I was younger, I wanted to be remembered for building something or, being successful or whatever, but now it's more like being a good person, being kind, taking the time to build relationships. That's the kind of thing.
And that all gets more important as you get older, because the thing is, you can't take your money with you. And the last thing they talk about at your funeral is your character.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, that was your in-depth.
Thank you. Oh, how I feel? It was good to talk about
good
different areas of the...
Let's do one last question.
Yeah.
What one piece of advice would you give to Amazon sellers?
Well, reflecting on the dark days, then I would say that it's okay if you don't reach the goals right away. Like, it's better to take some time off and postpone the big growth and whatever than break yourself.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the more in-person stuff. I love doing these in-depths and learning more about my friends as well. There's, a lot of people that I do the in-depths with. I try and know that I have some level of relationship to make the story more interesting, and obviously recognise their boundaries. So thank you for everything you shared. I'm sure the audience learned a lot. I'm going to sign off now. Thank you for your time and attention. Much love, and I'll see you again soon.